Hello and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we have a roller. The bike is off of the ATV lift. Tires and wheels are on it. And we are rolling. The front end is lined up. I'm sitting with about 1 degree of negative camber on each front tire. Factory calls for 0 degree camber, 0 degree caster. Caster, I think, as I mentioned before, is going to be an imaginary line through this ball joint to this ball joint. So basically they should be sitting vertically. If anything, you want them leaning back slightly if you don't want this in front of the lower at all. So they're all adjusted. I had to actually, to get this one lined up correctly, had to adjust this out and actually shift this A-arm forward just a little bit. But everything is lined up. We have about 3/8 of an inch, about a 1/4 inch of toe in. The toe for the tires is plus or minus a 1/4 inch. And it's obviously a very rough measurement. You find a point on the front of the tires, on the rear of the tires, measure it with a tape measure. I basically went from this center point on both sides, and you're only as accurate as those lugs are on both sides or your positioning of the tape. But I think we're in a pretty good position, so everything is tightened and torqued. And right now I'm happy with the way the bike is sitting. So what we're going to do today is I'd like to go ahead and get the engine installed finally. So what I need to do is, when I put the motor in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a towel across here, and that will help prevent scratching up the bottom of the motor as well as scratching up the frame. I'm going to remove these bolts, obviously. I'm going to take the head stay out off the frame as well, and take the front mounting bolts out as well. I think on the engine I have a spark plug in there. I'm going to pull that out so that that's not sticking up. I don't have to worry about it hitting anything. Put some tape over that hole. When I bring the motor in, I will bring it in. The towel will allow me to rest it down and minimize any scratching. I will get the rear portion of the motor into this mount first. Get them in place, get the bolts in, and then you literally can swing the motor up slightly because this pivots to make sure that you get the lower mounts into the frame. Then once that's in place, then we'll put our front mounts in, we'll put our head stay in. Obviously everything will be loosely bolted until we get everything in place, and then we can go ahead and secure it. All right. We're all set there. Have the head stay out, have all the mounting bolts out. Took the spark plug out of the motor, put some tape over top of the hole. Just want to make sure that that's not going to be in the way. We have all of our mounting bolts, brackets. These are our front mount brackets, our head stay. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this off the stand. Go ahead and get it into place. Like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the motor, and with putting this towel here, I can go ahead and I can set the motor into here, and then I can work the back of the motor into the rear mount, get these bolts into place. Then I can get the bottom mount in place. And then we can get our front mounts and our head stay in. Okay, and our motor is set into place. Basically by setting it onto the towel, and then I can position it and get these rear bolts into place. And I don't have the nuts on them yet. And then all I can have to do is just literally pick up on this, and I can pivot the motor up enough to slide the towel out. And now I can go ahead and put my lower mount bolt in, and then we'll get our front mounts installed and our head stay installed. Okay, like I said, we got the rear bolts in, lower bolt is in down the bottom. Now I'm going to go ahead and put our front mounts in. All right, so our front mounts are in. These are obviously they're just still loose. Got to torque them all when they're in. Now, this one lined up right away. This one, in order to get these, I had to just pick up on the motor slightly, but then everything fell right into place. Now, the next one's going to be the head stay to get that into place. Okay, and we have our head stay installed. I will say, before you install this, make sure that this mount, just like the rear mount, make sure that they are spread wide enough to fit over top of here. Otherwise, you're going to be tapping this with a mallet or a piece of wood to shift it around and to get it to secure onto there. And then obviously if you had that in the rear, you'd be fighting trying to get it over the case. But everything lined right up. Just took a little jiggling to make sure that this was clear enough to get this bolt through. Now we're going to go ahead and torque everything up. We have smaller 8mm bolts on the head stay on the sides. These lower mounting bolts for the front mounts, those are 8mm bolts, and those are 18 to 25 foot-pounds. And then the larger 10mm bolts are 36 to 43. So we're going to go ahead and get the torque wrench out and get them all torqued up. Okay, got all those bolts torqued. Motor is fully secured and into place. Only problem I ran into is the weld nuts that were on this side of the head stay. They couldn't handle any torque. As soon as I put some torque on those bolts, they started to spin freely. So I put these nuts on the end just to lock them into place. I'm gonna have to change that out. I think I'll just, the OEM length bolts are not long enough. I think what I'm gonna do is I'll leave the weld nuts in place. I'll get slightly longer bolts and some flange nuts that have nylon locking ends on them, just so that I can thread through the nut and then torque it and lock it into place. This will hold it for now, but before I put the fuel tank, get a fuel tank and put a fuel tank and a seat on and obviously wrap it up, I'll get those properly secured. I mean, they're torqued right now to spec, but obviously, as you can see, the bolt does not come all the way through the nut, so you don't have full strength there. Everything else is secured and torqued nice and tight. Motor fits in there really well. Very happy with how that went in. Going to go ahead and pull this tape off and put the spark plug back in. Okay, spark plug's back in. That gets torqued to between 11 and 14 foot-pounds. And that completes the installation of our motor. Very simple to bolt in. Everything lines right up right. Provided your frame's not tweaked or bent. I'm happy that this one went right in, because that tells me that you know, visually, I mean, we did not see anything with this frame, but sometimes you can't always tell. Like I said, the only correction I got to do is fix this, which is minimal. Right, that wraps it up for today. Our motor is now complete. Thank you very much for watching. Hope this helps anybody out there that's either doing this or doing a build like this or just following our build. If you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to leave them below. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.